We are live. This is the market update. I am your host, Bill Noble. If you need a roadmap in crypto, stick with this channel. Turn on alerts and pay attention to the Discord Bill Alerts channel so you know when we're going live. And naturally, if the content works for you, please check out the feedback form down in the description. All right. Today, we're going to continue this fireside chat format. The good news is about this, I don't think we have to worry about a scary dip right this second. Fingers crossed, right? It doesn't feel like anything either way. We'll discuss CPI. Let me give you the executive summary. So the market was in FOMO mode yesterday in advance of the number, anticipating something good. Now, the number was okay. The number is fine. It's as expected, but there really isn't any progress on bringing inflation down. If anything, one measure of inflation just keeps ticking to a new high. So is the Fed unhappy with this? No, they're not unhappy with it. Is the Fed going, hey, this is great, we can cut rates? Maybe, right? Let's think positive. I think for the Fed to cut rates, they need something to kind of break between now and the Fed meeting. But, it is very possible that for the moment, we can stick with the idea that, the Fed's going to cut rates. Now, is that temporarily priced in? Probably. The most important thing to remember is that the first trade off all of these numbers is usually wrong. So it's like if you want to trade CPI or PPI, it's like you kind of wait a day. Like the algorithms trade the numbers back and forth, and then the real move surfaces later. Obviously, the fact that crypto is super perky and we didn't have to worry about some kind of gigantic dip right this second is very encouraging. Very encouraging. I don't know that I want to push all in. I don't know if I want to push all in, but we do have some charts. Things are looking better. And even if there is a dip, there is evidence that the crypto, even if there is a 3% or 5% dip, still looks pretty good. In other words, if they gave you a dip, man, you want to get on this, right? You want to get on this. But in terms of this inflation number, I think it's good, but I don't think it's case for euphoria. Okay, I'm going to PowerPoint first today. Okay, here we go. We're going to PowerPoint first. Oh, wait a minute. Why am I going to PowerPoint when I'm being antisocial and not welcoming people? What's wrong with me? Okay, so we have Zepetis first on the stream. Double ace. Good morning. Corey Mahet, today's Tech Bites. Welcome. JJ Jones in the house. SG the OG. Welcome. Alexandra, Horace, George, Zwanny, a purple camel. Good morning. Rosenholtz Consulting and Coaching is here. Welcome. Joshua, right? Zepeda is saying, don't forget to like the video. And Brandon in the house. Welcome to the show. We appreciate your business and your viewership. Okay, let's get busy on this PowerPoint. Now, what I basically did was took some of the key points from Zero Hedge, the news group, and put it into like a slide deck. So money supply is reaccelerating. Why is that relevant? Well, as Milton Friedman, a famous economist, would said, one, inflation is first and foremost a monetary phenomenon, meaning you print money, you get inflation. Two, inflation is too many dollars chasing too few goods, which was definitely the way it was post-COVID, hence the phenomenon, right? Now, in this graphic, they're basically showing that the red line is year-over-year changes in M2, which is the money supply, and the blue line is consumer price index. Now, if you're wondering what this graphic is all about, the edgy theory in legacy is to go back to a pattern match from the 70s where there was a big wave of inflation and then the Fed took a break or, lowered rates. And then the whole thing just reignited again and rampaged higher as in, so there was a second inflation surge. So, all the cool macro heads in legacy that, love to dive deep into numbers and make super fancy graphs like this are all leaning or all trying to get the disaster crowd going with this, inflation reigniting thing. I don't know that makes any sense because the unemployment picture is getting worse, right? Company after company lately is talking about, major layoffs. I mean, it's not rampant, but you've had a couple companies, talk about major staff reductions. You got a new CEO at Starbucks who may do the same thing. Okay, and then this is the 50th straight month of month-over-month increases in what they call core CPI. So inflation was as expected, which means economists at Wall Street estimate the number, and then the number comes in right as expected. What a shock in an election year, right? Like, were you really going to get like, oh my God, what a disaster? With Harris having to answer for that in public? No, right? But, if you take out food and energy, inflation is still rising. So the Fed knows this. The Fed can use layoffs or something to break in the banking system to cut rates. But I don't know that these numbers make it 100% obvious that the Fed needs to cut rates and moreover, keep cutting rates. But there's nothing in the way. There's nothing there's nothing going, oh yeah, we have to be super worried about this. If there's a drop in the market, it'll have to be about something else. There may not be a drop in the market. We'll talk about, altcoins being in a position to do better. Okay. And then there's something called super core inflation, which is, something the Fed looks at. And I'm not going to go into what's going on in the numbers, but, 4% inflation is what this thing implies. The Fed's not happy about that. Fed wants this number rolling over hard. It's not there yet. So if today is kind of mellow, the reason today would be kind of mellow, August 14th, is because they kind of did this whole, yay, inflation is as expected. It's not terrible trade yesterday. They did it already, at least, especially in equities. All right, now let's talk about something like borderline giga bullish. This is the linear regression function on TradingView. I basically tell it to look past it the last 400 days and then give me something where, give me something on the Solana chart where, you just use statistics and draw this out using 400 days of data. Turns out Solana is at the bottom end of the channel, right? Now, with Solana at the bottom end of the channel, this leaves room if Solana holds 145, turn around and make a new high. So maybe the dip is a range or just sitting here, right? The only thing I could think that creates an epic dip is what's going on in Russia. Ukrainians are inside Russia and may take the main train station in whatever town they've invaded. But short of that, none of that geopolitical stuff has ever mattered. Solana's sitting at the bottom end of the range. Solana took out the top end of this thing, right? And then went down and they took out the bottom end of this thing and now it's just sitting there. So it's like, what is the case to be bearish Solana? What is the case to be bearish Bitcoin? There isn't any. The only, the case to buy the dip is there, but this is like, hey, there's a lot of support here. Now, in terms of like what's on the upside, 145 is a floor and 170 is a ceiling. So you do have to understand that we are headed into the last 2 weeks of August. So I don't think it would be unreasonable, bullish or bearish in either direction to have Solana sit between 145 and 70. I know that's not very exciting, but that's better than your, that's better than worrying about your portfolio, pooing to bed if it's a range between 145 and 170, right? That's fine with me, right? That's fine with me. I mean, I don't want to have to worry about a dip to 135, and we may not have to based on these technicals. Okay, so Bitcoin is very similar. Bitcoin is inside this huge regression band. I know this is a little busy because I left the Lux Algo Elliott wave on it. But the bottom line is Bitcoin is kind of wedged between support at like 60 and a resistance point at 62. 62K is the 62% retracement of the recent down move. So we could just sit here. Doesn't make for breathtaking TV, but it also doesn't make for sleepless nights unless something terrible happens, right? Sitting here is just fine because we think we know that at the end of the year, Bitcoin is going to be a lot higher than 62K, one, and two, this market is set up perfectly for a repeat of last year, right? An August puke, a possible sweep of the low, possible dip. There was a new low in September. I don't know if that happens given the severity of Black Monday, which we discussed extensively. But this is set up for a repeat of last year. Because even if the Fed doesn't have a case to lower rates on CPI, something is going to happen that's going to trigger lower rates, money into the system, and higher Bitcoin. And I am personally perfectly content to wait in a sleepy range. I would love that. And we've discussed already the plans on what to do, if there is a dip, which, we can revisit if that dip shows up, and if it doesn't, sounds good to me. Ethereum's got resistance at 2836. Okay. So, that's where, the heavy portion of the Black Monday puke started from, to where this thing went from a down move to a crash, right? So can Ethereum retest that? Yes. Is that logical? Yes. Was this excessive? Yes. Does it make sense for it to be unwound? Yes. Now, once they unwind it, what happens? Oh, I don't know. But, Ethereum not collapsing is a victory. It's an absolute victory. Okay, let's talk about Bitcoin dominance. I have a couple different charts on this. All right. Bitcoin dominance has done a 5-wave move up, which is a nice way of saying the process of Bitcoin outperforming altcoins, that process appears to have run its course. Okay. So if Bitcoin doesn't continue to outperform alts, it gives alts an opportunity to catch up to Bitcoin. And you have to figure that's going to be led. Okay, you ready for this? You ready? That would have to be led by Solana. And don't laugh, that could be led by memes. In other words, when the market gets bored, they love meme coins. So wouldn't it be funny if there was no dip and we just kind of sat here, that people once again became interested in Solana and meme coins? So the last 2 days, I gave you like, okay, this is the plan for the downside. Now the plan for the upside is if we just sit here, meme coins and altcoins could get perky. I mean, even more boring altcoins like Aave was up 6% today when I started doing this, right? All right, let's go to live TA to continue this conversation about Bitcoin dominance. Right? Because to me, this could be one of the major themes in a no dip world. In a no dip world. Okay. So at the time of doing this, Bitcoin, I don't know. Bitcoin is up, but not a lot. So maybe sell the fact on the numbers. But let's go to Bitcoin dominance. Okay. So this is Bitcoin dominance on a daily basis. 57.5 was like a big level. It was a Lux Algo kind of take profits level. Lux Algo, effectively said Bitcoin dominance had topped with this signal. Cool. Bitcoin dominance tried to rally back and retest it. And if it fails, then, you're looking at 55. You're looking at an attack of this support zone. Altcoins can do better. Okay, now total 3 on a daily chart doesn't look like, there isn't this like, oh my God, there's this signal that's blowing me away, but distance to resistance, right? Total 3 has room to go up. So the greatest thing that could happen to crypto really is that you don't get a dip. You don't get a dip. You just sit here and wait for the thing to close the distance to resistance in altcoins, equities. Okay. So equities were up huge yesterday. It is very typical in stocks when you have a down move for everybody to get super bearish. This is S&P futures. So everyone gets super bearish. I don't blame them. The 62% retracement is at 54.94 in S&P futures. 76%, which frequently that can be a level that they get to. You know what, folks? The greatest thing in the whole world is that they stop selling stocks. And here we go with stocks. It may be hard to see on Lux Algo on the screen, but this kind of goddish candle yesterday in stocks, the AI component of a Lux Algo is giving that like a very strong rating. So it gives you a green candle and it gives you a signal strength between 1 and 4, right? So if it says 4, Lux Algo believes in the equity rally. Terrific, right? If we don't have to worry about these characters imploding, crypto's fine. That's great, right? Okay, speaking of the money supply, Tether mints 1 billion Tether somehow for, I don't know if this is like 53 cents on the dollar or just 53 cents. So the money supply can increase through the Fed. And guess what? Tether can increase the money supply. I don't know how, but they just printed 1 billion. Tether moved the market higher in 2017. Academic studies were done that says the thing that pulled Bitcoin from 5K to 20K was, a printing machine by Tether. So, who's gonna argue this, right? Okay, so jobs turn negative for small businesses. The Fed is going to have to start paying attention. The Fed is going to have to start paying attention to the employment situation. Okay, just as a reminder, one reason to buy Bitcoin is we don't know who's running the United States. Like, governments are behaving so badly. It doesn't warrant like hours and hours of attention. But I mean, the Ukrainians moved into Russia, right? Who's making decisions to send troops to the Middle East? Who's doing all this? The UK is putting people in jail for what they're saying on Facebook. I mean, I don't think that's fully sunk in. I mean, what's next? Their bank accounts, people's bank. I mean, there's no limit. Once they start that kind of stuff, there's just no limit, right? Okay, US Bitcoin ETFs on track to top Satoshi's Bitcoin stack. Nobody is going to stop buying the Bitcoin ETF. Nobody. And as I understand it, somewhere in my stack here, Goldman just announced that they've got a huge position, right? Vanguard is purchasing GameStop. GameStop may be back. What does that mean? I don't know, man. There's a hedge fund out there that's really short GameStop. So if they decide to start pushing that again, but that also increases speculative juices in memes. And I know you must be sitting there looking at you guys. Is Big Boy talking about meme coins? I'm like, yeah, if it doesn't dip and we're bored, that's when the market loves to do this whole meme coin thing, right? Here we go. Asset manager Goldman Sachs discloses $418 million in Bitcoin ETF holdings. Simply put, folks, if there's no dip in the market, it's just because these big players is just not going to let Bitcoin leave without them. If Bitcoin goes to 100K at the end of the year, these guys are fired. That's it. They're going to be like, what do you got in Bitcoin? What's the upside in tech stocks? I don't know. Back to its high, maybe, right? What's the upside in Bitcoin? A 1x, 100% return. So if you don't have a Bitcoin strategy, if you're not long Bitcoin and it goes to 125K, you're fired. And that's being reflected in these investment banks buying this stuff time after time after time. Okay, let's just go to like some live TA about coins I know you guys care about. So one thing that can help, some of the DeFi coins that people like is Aave is moving, right? On the 12-hour Aave chart, you got Lux Algo putting in a very decent buy signal. Okay. Let's take a look at Arrow. Okay, so Arrow is holding support at the 38% retracement of its move down. And let's all sit here and hope that continues. That is 63 cents on the 12-hour chart. That's kind of my new favorite. Best thing that can happen in crypto is that, believe it or not, as unexciting as that is that we could literally just kind of all sit here. All right. True Finance has support, a Lux Algo level at 0.088. And there's a distance to resistance thing where, True on a 12-hour chart has upside to 0.12. So, on one hand, I'm really happy it's not collapsing. On the other hand, it's kind of sitting in the middle of a range. In some ways there's nothing to do, but the fact that there's nothing bad happening is good, right? True is sitting in the middle of a range of 0.12 to 0.06. So at 0.088, there may not be anything to do, but that's not bad. That's not bad, right? Now, meme coins, right? Okay, so meme coins getting sold this morning. So doesn't look like we're doing meme coins today. With meme coins, you always want to see momentum, right? Not getting it today. Not today. This is Popcat, 12-hour chart. All I'm saying about meme coins is if Solana ever woke up, right? If Solana woke up, memes would wake up. That doesn't mean put This doesn't mean go on pump.fund and put in, all your money. Somewhere in here, I've got, pump.fund. It is making more money. Yeah, here it is. Pump.fund 24-hour revenue higher than those of the remaining top 20 protocols combined. See, now that's not bullish, right? If everyone's doing pump.fund, okay, but it is evidence that when people get bored, they do get involved in meme coins. Now, here's a concluding point. Let me just check to see who's here. Zach is here. Daniel plays paintball. Welcome. Arundam, you're welcome. Mr. Relentless made it. Any comments on Solana? Okay, so on Solana, I am expecting a move up. Solana is going to be bid at 145, 135, and 116. Solana goes down, people are going to buy it. Any move in all coins obviously is going to be led by Solana, and there is the possibility of an ETH comeback. Unless there's a macro event, something terrible happens, I don't see what the case is to sell Bitcoin, like at all. If anything, Bitcoin could just sit here. Bigger picture, if there's a dip, you want to be there. If there's a rally, you want to be able to clean out anything that doesn't work. August, the remainder of August is like housekeeping. A dip is a gift. A range is copacetic. A rally is wonderful. Crypto is going to be something that institutions have to own. Have to. Meaning if crypto goes up and they are not on that move, someone's going to tap them on the shoulder, which is a nice way of saying, there's going to be a problem. So any dip is going to be met. Any dip is going to be met by buying. Now, any dip, as I've noted the last two sessions, could be scary, but we don't have to worry about that today. We don't. Okay. Altcoins are all right. The move on CPI was yesterday. And the greatest thing that can happen with crypto is that everything is copacetic. That said, don't trade when you're bored. Like if you're bored, don't just do a trade. Okay? Don't just do a trade. And then Daniel plays paintball is reminding us that what is going on in the United Kingdom is very reminiscent of George Orwell's book, very reminiscent of V for Vendetta. Ironically, these things were all set in the UK. That's what made these movies like so edgy and crazy. It's like, wow, the UK is going to overwhelmingly elect a party that's going to turn around and put everybody in jail for what they say in Facebook. People, this is why we Bitcoin. Financial sovereignty matters. Institutions have to own it. Dips can happen, but if they don't, I'd settle for boredom. I definitely settle for boredom, right? All right, folks, that's this fireside chat game plan for today. If you like this format, please let us know in the economics chat room. We will see you next time.